Gas exchange is the movement of oxygen into the blood and the movement of carbon dioxide out of the blood. The structure and organization of the lung is meant to maximize its surface area to increase gas diffusion. Due to the enormous number of alveoli, the surface area of the lung is very large. The surface area of the lung is equivalent to that of a tennis court. Having such a large surface area increases the amount of gas that can diffuse into and out of the lungs. Gas exchange during respiration occurs primarily through diffusion, a process in which transport is driven by a concentration gradient and molecules move from a region of high concentration to a region of low concentration. Gas exchange between the air within the alveoli and the pulmonary capillaries occurs by diffusion. The oxygen must first dissolve before passing through the respiratory epithelium.
Gas moves from a region of high partial pressure to a region of low partial pressure down a partial pressure gradient. Partial pressure is a measure of concentration of individual components in a mixture of gases. The total pressure exerted by the mixture is a sum of the partial pressure of the components in the mixture. The rate of diffusion of a gas is proportional to its partial pressure within the total gas mixture. This distance is decreased during inhalation as the lungs descends, allowing extremely fast and efficient diffusion across the tiny distance. The various factors that affect gas exchange include oxygen, carbon dioxide, and ventilation perfusion. The partial pressure of oxygen, PO2, is always lower in the alveoli compared to the external environment. Due to the continuous diffusion of oxygen across the alveolar wall along the diluted effect of CO2, entering the alveoli as it travels into the opposite direction to the O2. The PO2 in the alveoli is still higher than that in the capillaries, so oxygen diffuses into the blood. Once through the alveolar, the capillaries walls, the oxygen combines hemoglobin to form oxyhemoglobin that is transported within the bloodstream.
Carbon dioxide enters the red blood cell as a waste product from cells, which reacts with water to form carbonic acid. Carbonic acid dissociates to bicarbonate ions and hydrogen ions. These diffuse into plasma, where hydrogen ions are buffered by hemoglobin. Approximately 5% of the total body CO2 dissolves in the plasma. 5% is carried by the carboxyl hemoglobin on proteins, and 90% is carried as a bicarbonate ions in the plasma. The partial pressure of carbon dioxide, PCO2, in the capillaries is higher than in the alveoli, thus CO2 diffuses into the alveoli where it is exhaled. The ventilation per perfusion ratio. The adequacy of pulmonary gas exchange relies on the V/Q ratio, ventilation per perfusion ratio. The alveoli should receive the ideal amounts of blood and gas for gas exchange. In disease situation, the amount of air delivered may be reduced. The alveolar wall may be thickened or the alveolar surface area may be reduced, with the result that less gas is able to diffuse out of the alveolus. Alternatively, blood supply may be impaired so that, despite sufficient ventilation, insufficient exchange occurs to support the body.
The key points of gas exchange are: gas is exchanged between the alveoli and the pulmonary capillaries via diffusion. Gas molecules will move from an area of high concentration to an area of low concentration. The partial pressure of oxygen, PO2, is lower in the alveoli in comparison to the external environment, which allows for diffusion of oxygen into the alveoli. The partial pressure of carbon dioxide, PCO2, is higher in the capillaries than in the alveoli, which allows for diffusion into the alveoli where it is exhaled during expiration. The ventilation/perfusion ratio, V divided by Q, ensures that the ideal amount of blood and gas is received by the alveoli for efficient gas exchange.